Hello viewers of Sounding Board, and tonight we're going to talk about, the 1997 Lost in Space figure of Professor John Robinson in Prometheus armor. These figures were made by Trendmaster after this movie, which was a bomb in the theaters. Worldwide it was a success, but America deemed it a dog. It got a lot of Razzies, but Gary Oldman did get Best Villain from the Saturns. And the figures were kind of limited because all you had is a choice of Will Robinson, Judy Robinson, Major Don West, Dr. Smith, and last but not least, John Robinson. You think he would have been the first because he's the father and he's also the main character of the show at this time. And they all came with these alien spiders, which, when you look at it, is really kind of a dumb figure prop, but it does give you something to play with the action figure and the alien if it's the only figure you own. But overall, the toy line only had these as the villains, because for the most part you had different variations of Robot, the Jupiter, and two Bubble Fighters. And you basically only had two versions of Dr. Smith to use as a villain, which is kind of funny because even in the show he may have been an antagonist, but at the start of the show he is a villain. And when they started figuring out, people were watching it for Dr. Smith, not for the Robinsons as much. They switched the idea and made Dr. Smith a likable villain, an anti-hero. He's still a villain because he always has selfish motivation. But there are bigger villains in the series than him each episode. And I think the big downfall of this movie is, one, it doesn't really have a clear-cut villain other than Dr. Smith, who becomes one of these spider-like things, a hybrid, in the movie. Spoiler, but the movie's so old now, it came out in 1997, that no one really cares. And we have John Robinson here, who's played by William Hurt, in his spacesuit, because we got the space helmet, his handgun, and then we have Will Robinson's Space Award. And this is Robot here. And it's funny is Danger Will Robinson. Danger was only in one episode of the original series. It was never in a plethora of episodes like people believe. But it became the tagline of the show. And like I said, the figures kind of flounder because first they're an awkward size. They're about 4 and 4 inches tall, maybe 5 inches. And at this time, the 3 3/4 figure dominated, and the Star Trek The Next Generation figure had just come out, and they had more joints, and they also had more characters to choose from. You also had villains. You had Klingons, you had Ferengi, you had a plethora of, a galaxy of alien races, good and bad, to pit the crew of the Next Gen against. Here, we just got these. And it's just boring. Even I never bought these figures when they were on the shelf, and I enjoyed Lost in Space. The movie, okay, but the show I really liked. And these didn't inspire me as a sci-fi movie collector or a superhero figure collector to get these. I got this in a bulk trade with a friend of mine with some Tarzan figures, which I'll show you later. But yeah, I don't know anyone who really goes out of their way to find these anymore. They're kind of what would be called a crapola toy. They're, or in collectible cards, it's the figure you use to clinch a trade. You just throw it in because it's not worth that much, or it's not worth anything to you. But you'll throw it in as an extra, go, okay, I really want that Charizard, so I'll give you 2 Blast Tortoises and my John Robinson. And most people will take junk just for the sake of feeling they got a better trade. And I think these are most time, like at comic conventions, are at the bottom of the table, or they're just sitting in the person's store on their clearance bin, waiting to find a home or a collector that might like Lost in Space. Because after all, we have some figures for the original series, some figures for this series, but none for the new series, which is surprising. You'd think they would have made the battle armored version of Robot from this series, and at least the Jupiter 7, because people love spaceships. And they could have made it with lights and sounds. But for now, we'll stop here and say this is the sounding board, signing off.